I spent my inheritance renovating my in-laws' family farm, turning it into a business for everyone. Last month, they called a meeting without me. You're not family by blood. You have no claim. My husband said nothing. Just slid the new ownership papers across the table, with my name nowhere on them. I packed my bags in silence, but as I reached for my laptop to transfer my files, I saw an email thread that was never meant for me. 3 years ago, I lost my dad. He was my everything. He died in his sleep. Heart attack. No warning. Just gone. I was his only kid. No siblings. My mom left when I was 10 and never came back. So when he passed, I got everything. The house, the truck, and the life insurance. After taxes, I ended up with a little over $420,000. I remember holding that check in my hand, sitting alone in the kitchen of the small rental Mark and I shared just outside Elizabethton, Tennessee. My heart was broken, but I thought, at least now we'd be okay. Mark and I had been married almost 5 years at that point. He worked part-time as a mechanic and helped his dad on their family's rundown farm on weekends. I worked remote as an admin assistant for a medical billing company. Not glamorous, but steady. That farm had been in Mark's family forever. His parents didn't live on it anymore, it had been abandoned for a while, but they still talked about it like it was some kind of sacred place. Every family dinner was the same. We should bring it back to life. Used to be 80 acres of good soil. If only we had the money. I should have seen where it was going. I didn't. Mark came to me late one night, months after the funeral. We were sitting on the couch, watching a movie. He paused the screen and turned to me. "What if we used some of the money for the farm?" he asked. I looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "We fix it up. Restore the house. Plant crops. Get it going again. Turn it into a business. Weddings, events. You've got the skills. You could run the business side. I'll take care of the land." I asked, "Would it be ours? Or would it still be your parents'?" He said, "Ours. A family thing. You and me, building something real." I should have gotten that in writing. I didn't. I spent the next 2 years pouring money and sweat into that land. Not just money, my dad's money. We hired local contractors to fix the roof, rebuild the porch, put in a new kitchen. I designed a website, created booking systems, set up social media, ordered business cards, signed vendor contracts. I paid the electricians. I paid the plumbers. I even paid Mark's cousin Ben to do the landscaping. We turned the old barn into a beautiful rustic event space, twinkle lights, custom wood tables, huge windows looking out over the fields. I planted lavender and sunflower patches. Brought in a couple of horses from a rescue out near Knoxville. Hired a local beekeeper to install hives and help me sell honey at weekend markets. People started noticing. We were booked solid from April to October. I ran everything: calls, invoices, booking deposits, vendor management. Mark mostly handled maintenance and walked around with a beer pretending he was doing more than he was. But I didn't mind. I was proud. I thought I was building a life with the man I loved. What a joke. A month ago, Mark texted me, "Family meeting at the farm. 5 p.m. tomorrow." No other info. Just that. I didn't think much of it. Maybe they wanted to talk about expanding. Buying more land. I had just landed a couple who wanted to book a full weekend wedding retreat. I was excited to share that. I showed up at the barn and felt something off right away. Everyone was already sitting around the long table. Mark's parents. His sisters. Their husbands. Even the teenage kids were sitting along the wall. Mark stood up when I walked in. Said nothing. Just motioned for me to sit. His mom started talking. "First off, we all want to thank you for your work," she said. "Not our. Not my. Just your work." She kept going. "But we've decided to move forward in a new direction. This land belongs to the McCarthys. It always has. You're not blood. We appreciate what you've done, but this isn't your place to own. Then Mark slid a folder across the table. Ownership papers. I opened it and stared at the names. Mark. His dad. His sisters. All filed under a new LLC. No mention of me. No stake. No voting rights. Not even a footnote. I looked up. What is this? Mark didn't answer. Just looked away. His sister Rachel said, "We're formalizing the business. Keeping it in the family." I stood up. I didn't say a word. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just walked out. I went home and started packing. My hands were shaking, but I wasn't crying. I was numb. Clothes, toiletries, a few books, some keepsakes from my dad. I reached for my laptop last. It was still open on the dining room table. And that's when I saw it. Mark had been logged into his Outlook account. He must have forgotten to close it. Right there on the screen was a thread of emails titled, "Farm Transition Strategy, Keep OP Out of Legal Structure?" My hands went ice cold. There were over a dozen emails, going back 6 months. All between Mark, his sisters Rachel and Denise, and their cousin Tyler, who's a real estate lawyer in Nashville. They'd been planning this for months. Referring to me like I was just a piece of furniture. A temporary ATM. Rachel wrote, "She won't have any legal claim if she's not on the LLC. She's just a contributor. No paperwork, no case." Tyler wrote, "Make sure no receipts show her as an investor. Keep everything under Mark or the parents' names." Mark replied, "We'll phase her out slowly. She thinks this is her project, so she's doing all the heavy lifting. Just let her finish building it up first." I scrolled further. One line nearly made me vomit. "Mark, once we're solid, I'll file. Offer her $10K for a quiet exit. No lawyer, no court. She's too soft to fight." They didn't just cut me out. They used me. Waited until I finished building everything, then threw me away. I didn't confront him that night. I copied every email. Every single one. I emailed the thread to myself and backed it up on a flash drive. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and started writing a plan. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen table, staring at the emails, reading them over and over. My hands were shaking, but my head was clear. This wasn't just betrayal. This was theft. They used my grief. Used my dad's money. Used my time, my work, my brain, and they thought they could just erase me. But I wasn't going to scream or cry or throw punches. I was going to ruin them. First thing the next morning, I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. My dad's old friend from high school, Victor. He was a small-town guy, based in Johnson City, and used to handle my dad's real estate stuff. He wasn't flashy, but he was sharp, and more importantly, he cared about my dad. I told him everything. I laid it all out. The money, the renovations, the emails, the LLC filing. All of it. He listened for a long time. Then said, "They're sloppy. You might not be on the LLC, but if we can trace where your money went, and you have these emails, we've got a case." That same day, I printed every receipt I had. Every Venmo transfer, every invoice with my name on it. I had over 200 pages of proof showing I funded almost everything, contractors, supplies, even the beehives. Victor filed an emergency motion to freeze any changes to the LLC until ownership could be reviewed in court. It worked. They didn't know it yet, but I'd just put a stop to whatever expansion plans they were about to roll out. 2 days later, Mark called me. I let it ring. He tried again. Then again. Then he texted, "Can we talk?" I still didn't answer. But I did call his mom. I kept it short. "I've frozen the business. I have the emails. You're all going to hear from my lawyer." She tried to cut me off, said I was overreacting and this is just a misunderstanding. I hung up. The next week, I moved into a short-term rental across town. Small one-bedroom, not fancy, but quiet. I didn't tell anyone where I was. I needed space. I needed time to think. That's when Denise, Mark's sister, showed up at my door. She must have followed me from the courthouse. I opened the door a crack. She looked nervous. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Just 5 minutes. Please." I let her in. She sat on the couch like she was about to confess something. And she did. She told me she never wanted to cut me out. That it was mostly Rachel and their dad pushing it. That she thought Mark was going to leave me after the papers were filed, but even she didn't know he was planning to offer me hush money. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. "Rachel's been talking to a guy about buying the land. A developer. They want to flip the farm. Sell off the fields, build houses. They were going to wait till next year. You were never supposed to know." I sat there, jaw tight. It was never about keeping the land in the family. That was all a lie. They wanted me out so they could cash in. And Mark? He was going to let it happen. That same night, I looked deeper into the business accounts I still had access to. They hadn't kicked me out of everything yet, just the LLC. The website, booking emails, and even the bank deposits still routed through systems I had set up. And that's when I found it. A transfer for $60,000 from the business account, sent to Rachel's personal account. No note. No explanation. Just gone. I kept digging and found another, $18,000 to their dad. $7,200 to Mark. All within the last 3 weeks. They were bleeding the business dry before I could do anything. I called Victor and gave him the full picture. He got quiet. Then said, "We're not just talking civil court anymore. This is fraud." The next day, Mark showed up at my rental. I didn't answer. He stood outside for 10 minutes, knocking, pacing. Then he slid a note under the door. "Let's not go to court. Let's figure this out. You're making this worse than it is." I took a picture of the note. Sent it to Victor. Then I shredded it. The next day, I logged into the website admin panel and paused all bookings. Sent a message to every vendor we worked with letting them know the business was undergoing legal review. Then I logged into the Instagram and posted a simple statement: "Due to a legal dispute over ownership and financial misconduct, all operations at McCarthy Farm events are paused until further notice. All clients with existing contracts will be contacted directly." Within 24 hours, I got 43 emails. Angry brides, vendors, a local news station, and a wedding blog we'd been featured on the month before. And then, Rachel called me. Screaming. "You've ruined everything. You don't even own anything. You have no right." I just said, "Tell that to the judge," and hung up. After the post went up, everything started unraveling for them. By the end of that week, 4 couples canceled their weddings. 2 vendors pulled out completely. One of them made a public post backing me up, saying I'd been the brains and heart behind the farm since day one. It spread fast in our little part of Tennessee. People started whispering. The McCarthys had always played the small-town royalty act, but now folks were talking about the emails, the money transfers, and me. Turns out, I wasn't the only person they'd screwed over. A week later, I got a call from a woman named Carla. She ran a flower farm 2 towns over. We'd used her for a few weddings early on. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year. She said, "I heard what's going on, and I think you should know. Rachel and your husband tried to lowball me out of a contract last spring. Said they'd cut me out if I didn't drop my prices. I walked away, but they still used my designs and got some teenager to replicate my work." I thanked her. Took notes. Sent the info to Victor. Then 2 days later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside were 6 printed screenshots, Facebook messages between Mark and some woman named Tasha. Dated from over the past year. One stuck out more than the others. "Mark, once she's out, I'll be free. I just need to play it calm. She doesn't suspect anything. Another read, Tasha, she's the one paying for everything and they still treat her like trash lol. My stomach turned. So that's why he'd been so calm through it all. He'd already moved on. He wasn't planning to rebuild anything with me after the fallout, he was lining up his next place to land. The more I dug, the uglier it got. Victor's forensic accountant got involved. That $60,000 that went to Rachel? She had funneled it to a shell account in Georgia. And that $18,000 to their dad? He had used it to pay off a personal loan, not farm-related at all. The paper trail was messy, but it was all there. That meant they weren't just trying to steal the business. They were embezzling from it. Which made things criminal. Victor updated our motion, and we added charges. Fraud. Misuse of business funds. Even a potential conspiracy charge, depending on what the DA decided. Once that was filed, it triggered an automatic audit of the business's taxes. Turns out, they hadn't been filing correctly for 2 years. Because I had been doing it. And the year after they pushed me out? They didn't file at all. That same week, I ran into Denise again. This time at the courthouse. She pulled me aside and said something I didn't expect. I'm willing to testify, she said. I'll tell the judge everything. Just, don't lump me in with them. I knew what was happening, and I didn't stop it. But I'm done lying for Rachel. I didn't trust her completely, but I knew it would help. We gave her a formal statement form. She signed it under oath. Her testimony laid out the whole strategy. How they timed everything after my dad died, how Mark told the family to be patient while I funded the upgrades, and how they always planned to phase me out after the bookings took off. She even showed us a group chat she'd been removed from once she started pushing back. Meanwhile, the farm was bleeding. No bookings. No vendors. People driving past and taking pictures of the overgrown fields and the peeling paint on the barn, posting them online with captions like the fall of McCarthy Farms. I should have felt satisfied. But I didn't. Not yet. They still had my money. My name still wasn't on the paperwork. And Mark? He hadn't shown his face since that note he left under my door. But I heard from someone at the auto shop he used to work at, he'd quit. Packed up and left town. Ran off with Tasha. A few days later, I got served with a countersuit. Filed by Mark. He claimed I'd sabotaged the business intentionally after being politely asked to step away. That I was emotionally unstable, erratic, and harmed the McCarthy family name. I laughed out loud when I read it. Victor didn't. He looked me in the eye and said, "He's trying to bait you. Don't give him what he wants. We've got him. Let it play out." I listened. But inside, I made another decision. I wasn't going to let this just end in court. I had one last card to play. The countersuit was a joke, but it gave me the last thing I needed, leverage. Victor filed a response within 24 hours, attaching every one of the emails from the Keep OP Out thread, the bank transfer logs, the messages between Mark and his new girlfriend, and Denise's sworn statement. He also included screenshots from the farm's public Instagram before and after I was removed, showing a clear drop in bookings, engagement, and visibility. That countersuit lit a fire under our case. But while Victor handled the legal side, I worked on something personal. Remember how I still had access to the digital booking system? What I didn't mention earlier was that I also set up a second site last year, an offshoot idea I was planning to launch one day. A separate brand, focused on sustainable farm events, with my name and image tied to it. I never made it live, until now. I renamed it Heritage Hollow by Eliza James, my full name. And then I made a bold move. I took out a personal loan. Risky? Sure. But I used it to lease a small 10-acre farm just outside Jonesboro. It wasn't fancy, but it had potential. A restored barn, a wide-open pasture, and a wraparound porch with sunset views. And then I did the unthinkable. I called every single vendor I had worked with in the past 3 years, the DJs, florists, food trucks, photographers, even the local bakery who used to do custom pies for our weddings. I told them what happened. I showed them receipts, the lawsuits, the messages. Almost all of them agreed to move forward with me. 2 months later, while McCarthy Farm sat empty and half-dead, Heritage Hollow had a soft launch event. I invited every client who had cancelled after the mess and offered them a 30% discount if they'd give us a second chance. 6 couples rebooked. That same week, the county tax office placed a lien on the McCarthy Farm property. They owed over $47,000 in back property and business taxes. Then the real court date arrived. The hearing took 2 days. Victor laid it out clean, over $300,000 in traceable funds from my inheritance used to improve the property. Dozens of payments made directly from my personal account to vendors and contractors. Proof the business couldn't sustain itself after I was cut out. Emails showing a deliberate, premeditated plan to force me out and keep all profits. Testimony from Denise, the vendors, and 2 former clients who had heard Rachel and Mark brag about taking it all back. Mark didn't even show up. His lawyer tried to claim Mark was abroad. But I knew exactly where he was, Myrtle Beach, living out of a rental with his girlfriend, based on his dumb public Instagram posts. Rachel tried to lie, said I had agreed to step away because of stress. But Denise shut that down fast. When the judge gave his decision, he didn't hold back. I was awarded 75% ownership of McCarthy Farm, full control of the business entity, and restitution for damages, including emotional distress, fraud, and lost income. Mark's countersuit was thrown out with prejudice. Rachel and their father were held jointly liable for misusing funds. Rachel sobbed. Her dad looked like someone had taken a baseball bat to his pride. And just to twist the knife deeper, the judge ruled that unless the restitution was paid in full within 90 days, the farm could be legally liquidated, sold off piece by piece. They couldn't pay. Rachel had taken out loans using the business name that she never paid back. Their dad's pension had already been tapped to cover debts. And Mark? He filed for bankruptcy from out of state, hoping to get out of it all. Didn't work. The judge froze his accounts. The McCarthy Farm was auctioned off, publicly. I didn't even bother to buy it. I let it go to a land trust, who planned to convert it into a local co-op and senior garden project. Fitting, really. Something honest and useful. But that wasn't the best part. A few weeks after the case closed, I got a message on Facebook from Tasha, Mark's girlfriend. She wrote, "I didn't know about the lawsuit. He told me you were crazy. I found your post and read everything. I'm so sorry. He drained my account and left. He's gone." I didn't reply. Just took a screenshot and saved it in a folder labeled Proof of Karma. Now? I run Heritage Hollow full-time. We're already booked through next spring. I've hired a team of 4 amazing women, each one of them burned by someone who thought they were easy to push aside. The business is thriving. And I finally feel like I'm building something real, not for someone else's legacy, not for a man who only saw me as a wallet, but for myself. I lost my dad, but I didn't lose me. They thought I was soft. They thought I'd walk away quietly. But they forgot one thing: I built that farm from the dirt up. I knew every board, every nail, every inch. And when they tried to bury me under it, I made sure they went down first.